With that done, ladies and gentlemen, we are now moving on to our next panel session. Another fantastic panel session for the next 55 to 60 minutes. It's coming up, Smart Lending, the power of digital transformation in banks, and what a fantastic lineup of speakers we have for this panel. So without taking any further time of yours, let me introduce the panel members, and please help me welcome them with a big round of applause. Joining us first, Mr. Sanjeev Kumar, Deputy General Manager, Risk from Union Bank of India. A big round of applause to Sanjeev Kumar ji. Welcome to the panel, sir. Please have your seat. Joining next in this panel is Mr. Rajiv Kesri, Assistant General Manager, Credit Risk from State Bank of India. A big round of applause to Rajiv ji. Rajiv ji, welcome to the panel. Please have your seat. Joining next, Ms. Aarti Somani, Senior Vice President, Personal Loans, Unity Small Finance Bank. A big round of applause to Aarti ji. Welcome to the panel, Aarti. Please have your seat. Joining next, ladies and gentlemen, we have Mr. Chinu Tyagi, Vice President, IT from Kotak Mahindra Bank. Big round of applause to Ms. Tyagi. Welcome to the panel. Please have your seat, ma'am. Joining next in this panel, we have Dr. Sanjay Godke, CEO from Janata Sahakari Bank. A big round of applause to Dr. Sanjay. Welcome to the panel, sir. Please have your seat. Joining next in this panel, we have Rajani Baheti, Head of Credit, Federal Bank. A big round of applause to Ms. Baheti. Welcome to the panel, madam. Please have your seat. And our honorable moderator for this panel, it's an honor to invite Mr. Gurcharan Rai Bansal, Senior Chief General Manager and CSMO from India Post Payments Bank. A big round of applause to Bansalji. Welcome to the panel, sir. So Bansalji, fantastic panel, and I'm sure it's going to be a great session. All over to you, and wishing the panel a great success.
So thank you very much. And today it's really an honor to be a moderator for this esteemed panel, and the experts in their own domains and within their own the banks where they are working. And so today the topic is very, very relevant in terms of smart lending, the power of digital transformation in banks. Typically, as we see that, the digital space is, covering each and every aspect of our lives, and more so in terms of the banks, because banks, one of the key, the products, or I would say the key revenue streams is lending, and it takes center stage in the banks. And how to improve the lending space by using digital means, AI, as well as digital transformation. And this is the question today. And I would like to invite one by one our esteemed panel members. First of all, Sanjeev Kumarji, for discussing what exactly do you think, in your bank, how the digital transformation has taken place, how you assess the risk, and how the, the various other means they can be addressed.
Thank you. So, good morning to all. See, it's a digital transformation. It has become a part and parcel of, you can say, banking industry. In lending activity, there are inherent risks. And when we take adoption of technology, adoption of digitization, adoption of AI and ML, it has added to better risk management and better, you can say, credit profiling of the customers. Our regulators also expect that we should be very, very proactive in managing credit risk, so as to the asset quality is maintained, and the overall governance of credit is at a right place, you can say. So we can say the very dynamic nature of our industry and frequent change in credit profile of the customers. It was a very, very difficult earlier days. If you go to earlier days, we used to take civil reports which were quarterly updated. Once you have lent to a customer on quarterly basis, even if you get some data, you have hardly to do anything. That was, you can say, it was a post facto affairs. But now it's available on a real-time basis, number one. Number two, a lot number of many information you used to gather from different platforms. Now everything is available on a single platform. Right now the question was asked about land records. I hope 9, 10 states, they have fully digitized their land records. So even land records are available. So these are the beauty of digitization and adoption of technology. In that way, what we actually do and in what way it helps us, that we can accurately credit profiling of the customers. We can accurately pricing the customers depending upon risk profile of the customers, and it also helps monitor all those lending activities which we do on a real-time basis.
Wonderful. And now I would like to ask Shri Rajiv Keshri ji, and how the automated credit assessment really enhances the decision-making processes.
Actually, if we will see credit assessment, then at present, if we will see, then credit is very important for development of nation, as we already reached the fourth largest global economy. So future, if we want to develop and to be a 5 trillion economy, then lending will become very important. And in lending, credit risk assessment plays very important role. So exactly what is credit risk assessment? So credit risk assessment is the risk, credit risk we are trying to see. So what is credit risk? So we want to see that suppose today I'm lending to a borrower, then tomorrow my repayment and interest will come at time or not. So how we can see this? So whether we can be in a position, we can be in a situation where risk is zero. So risk is inevitable. We will never have a zero risk. So we are trying to mitigate and manage the risk. So how we can manage and how much risk we can take, from where we will know. So basically, bank in their policy, loan policy, they decide that how much risk you have to take. So they provide the threshold, they provide the limits, they provide that how much we can vary from the this threshold. Now further, if we will move, then these threshold depends upon two type of risk. One is my default risk, that this is based on probability of default, that tomorrow my unit will survive or not. And second is recovery risk. So recovery risk is what? That now suppose account turned to NPA, then what are the chances that how much recovery we can do? So it entirely based upon the collateral given to the bank. So these two are important parameters. And these two parameters, how bank is using? So bank is using credit risk assessment models. So at present, if you will see, internal or external models are available to all the banks. And these models, what we are doing, we are inputting data, and finally output comes in a form of rating. And rating, now suppose the rating can be in the form of scale of 1 to 8 or 1 to 16. Then we can decide my threshold is 10. We can lend up to 10, rating of 10 or scale of 10 only. So this is working fine. So what are the issues with these models? So these models at present, if you will see, then we can see that manually we are inputting the data. So what are the issues if we are manually entering the data? So issue comes with that sheer number of size, one issue. Then secondly, issue is manual input can be come with a risk of error. So there can be error. So how we can mitigate these errors? So at present, if you will see rating also, then rating is based on my expert judgment method. Now suppose data input is there, then experts can decide. So those statistical model also we are using, but entirely it is based on maximum of bank in India. It is based on that experts are deciding that what rating it will have. The second thing is banking landscape is changing also very rapidly. If banking landscape is changing, then whether these inputs are a part of my model, whether it is coming. So sometime, if the process of model, if you will see, then we are doing a rating of borrower at annual interval. The second thing we are doing, the model validation also we are doing at an annual interval. Now suppose I did my model validation in the month of February, after that some risk arises, then it will not come to the model. So this is a risk that also we have to see. Third thing is that now products also become very diverse. Now suppose how many model any bank can have? So my bank is having, for corporates, we are having 22 to 23 models. So whether 22 to 23 models can cover risk of all the borrowers? No, it is not happening. So sometimes some borrower need is different. So we are trying to align that which model fits to him. So it is not a tailor-made model. So this is also a risk. Then solution comes in a form of automation. So how we can automate these things so that it can be easier for risk managers and bank to assess the risk. So at present, what automation we are doing? So maximum automation we will see that we are doing at a stage of APIs. So we tie up with API. We are taking data from GST. We are taking data from income tax. We are taking data from bureaus. It is manually input is there. So as a result of this, what is happening? Error comes down. My time is reduced, but still it is not perfectly giving me the exact risk of the borrower. Then this era of AI and ML, how we can use AI ML for my modeling. At present, my bank is not using AI ML, very clearly I am telling. So API collaboration we are having, that input we are getting. So how AI and ML can help? So first we will start with AI. So large pool of data, it can study. So at present, State Bank of India is having more than 52 crore customer. So if SME borrower also you will see, then it is around more than 2 to 3 lakh customer. So this much data source analysis is definitely a difficult task. The second thing is that if this data source is very difficult, and the time also it takes, so if I will use AI ML, then time will also reduce. And the second thing is it can also do predictive analysis. And it can also give me a pattern. So what type of pattern it can provide? Now suppose one pattern, internally we have seen that now suppose utilization of limit goes to 90%, then chances of default rises. Now some ratios we can, through some ratio, current ratio or profitability ratio, we can link it with the chances of default. Now economy is moving in which direction, then this also we can do. So this is a role of AI. Then there is another set of AI that is ML, so machine learning. So machine learning also can develop my model. So how it can help? So now suppose historical data is available to me, some geographical data, some geopolitical data. So these things, so what machine will do, machine will learn and it will give me a pattern, so it will help me assessment of risk. The third subset is deep learning. So deep learning, so unstructured data. So here machine learning, structured data you can read. So deep learning, unstructured data also system can read. So what borrower is doing in social media, what type of online transaction they are doing, so this we can read and we can develop a pattern. And the another important thing is natural NPL. So here what is happening, so unstructured data as well as text, system can learn. So if borrower is filling the application, then it can learn their application. It can read the application. For the transactions also it can read. Then balance sheet also it can read. Auditor statement it can read. Then further Caro report it can read. And so documents it can read. And finally it can give me a solution. So this way AI ML can help in my modeling. So at present, my financial risk analysis, we can use business and industrial risk, we can use management risk, we can use further to developing my model. Again, ensembling learning can help. Now suppose various models are there, then we can ensemble it and finally we can have a better result. Then there is reinforcement learning also. Reinforcement learning, so by reading the how my external environment is moving, we can develop our model. Then the third thing is my regulatory and ethical learning components also we can input in my model by using AI ML. So this is from my end.
Very well said, Rajiv ji. And just like, State Bank of India being the largest bank, your learnings are really very deep and very, very vast. And I would say that, this probably is the story, I would say one thing that the skill, the will, and the bill, everything, the organizations are willing to, they are willing to spend. They have the skill, they have the will, And but yes, of course, the skill is a challenge today. You know, getting the skill, the right kind of skill to know the deep data. That, for example, you were saying the big data or the deep data. You know, today, for example, you know what Rajiv ji is mentioning कि हम लोग एक structured data को analyze कर लेते हैं. मतलब very deeply we can analyze the balance sheet, the GST details, the customer account statements, etc. But you know, today or in the future, what will happen is also the data will be picked up from your social media, from the kind of, you know, bills that you are spending on your credit card, whether you're spending more on clubbing, so you know, the kind of, you know, person that you are, or what kind of, you know, expenditures you are doing. So those kind of things that can also be analyzed by the deep data, and your personality can be analyzed, and thereby your risk profile can be done better by the AI in the times to come. But I think again the question will come to the bill. कि कितना बड़ा bill है, कितना बड़ा infrastructure है, what is the kind of volumes, velocity, what is the kind of numbers that the machine is going to churn, and what is the kind of structures we need to have. So very well said. And now I come to Aarti. Aarti, you being from one of the fastest growing banks, the Unity Small Finance Banks, and I've heard that Unity Small Finance Bank is also one of the best employers. So you just got an award. So Aarti, I would like to know, I mean, in your bank, what is the kind of automated risk, credit risk assessment tools that you're employing, and the kind of 360-degree, you know, views that you were saying, you know, they have been employed in terms of your bank credit risk assessment and the, you know, EWS, etc. So what is the kind of things that you are doing in your bank?
Sure. Thank you. I'm audible, right? Yeah. Thank you. You know, I would like to share something first. You know, as we are moving into this whole digital lending space and the smart lending space, more and more use of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and so on and so forth. I have come to believe that intelligence is becoming artificial, yet, you know, the stupidity remains to be original and natural. So this is on a lighter note, but why I say this is, you know, the problem with artificial intelligence or these risk models is not, you know, where the, you know, the risk in the algorithms, but the larger issue or, you know, the larger importance needs to be given. How much can we rely on these, you know, on these models, on these algorithms? How much risk are you willing to take? You know, in our organization, we are like, we are into digital lending. Like I take care of the digital lending vertical, which is the personal loan lending. We have a complete straight-through process. It's a DIY, do-it-yourself journey, a straight-through process. When a customer lands onto our page, he can do the journey seamlessly by himself, you know, without any human intervention. So we've reached that stage. Now, you know, when we have built these models are based on, you know, our credit assessment models are based on a lot of structured and unstructured data. We are using a lot of historical data, you know, a lot of bureau data. Finally, what we have to arrive is at the intent, you know, of the borrower and the ability of the borrower. And yet we want to give him that seamless experience, you know, when he can, you know, we can actually process the loans in minutes. Today, you know, this whole AI, ML, we do use AI, ML scorecards also as an alternative methodology. We just don't rely on AI, ML. We use regression, we use AI, ML. So there are multiple scorecards that we run, which helps us. And plus, over and above this, there is a lot of other data, you know, alternate data that we use in our journeys. Today, you know, with so many API integrations available, so many service providers available, there is so much data available as a lender, you know. So the human bias has been removed from these, at least, you know, the smaller loans where we, you know, the amount of time we want to spend on, you know, assessing these loans. Yet we want to do it smartly and cover our risk. We don't want to take risk also. We are into business. I always say we are not into business of lending, but we are into business of collections. Finally, you know, when we lend, we want to get our money back. So it becomes very, very important for us that we assess the customer's ability to pay and intent to pay. Now, today's time, we have so much data and so many API integrations available. If I want to assess a self-employed, I can use the GST returns, I can use the GST data, MCA data. And we do use a lot of this information in our journeys. If I want to use, assess a salary, I have so much information, his bank statements, I can see, what is the credit, what is the UPI transactions he's doing, where he is spending. So I think for a very long time, each one of us, all the bankers, finance companies, we have been giving customers what we want to sell and not what he wants. So I think with this whole AI and the digital lending shift that has happened, now we are able to offer to customer what he wants. Many times, customer just wants money for a shorter period, but we are giving him a personal loan. No, he wants a credit line. So today I have the power to give him a credit line because I can do an immediate assessment. I can do a merchant loan assessment using the POS information available with us, with the partner, through the partners, we get that information. We can assess that, we massage that data, we make decisions on that. We can also, now assess a Swiggy or a Zomato, delivery agent. There is so much, insight which is available from, how this person is delivering, how much time, how much, since how long he has been employed there, what is his rating. So we use so many other pointers, which are available today, and each one of us can use all these points to assess. And there's so much more data. I recently happened to meet a vendor. They do psychometric and, photo assessment. So looking at the photo, they actually tell you that, this customer will default or, will. So now that is something very interesting. I was scared to go through their journey. I thought, maybe they don't find me good looking enough to, So they had this concept that, it's a European company. They have this concept that, basis, how the person looks, but it is important. So when we were dealing with them, or I was understanding, so it is important they have to use this basis how Indians look, right? And how we behave. So we really can't use an European solution.
Predictability.
Factor of predictability.
Maybe it could be right 70% of the time or not, maybe 30%.
Absolutely, yeah. So, based on the data. So the face reading is there. So this is like, so there is so much advancement which is available. Behavioral analysis and how you look. Okay, so very interesting. So I think, there is so much data availability which can give us a 360-degree view of the customer. Today, I can get insight, I like to quote this example. We have done it in past. I have, in my erstwhile company, we have actually developed a scorecard for people who are doing spends on Amazon. Now, when I see a person who is buying something as trivial as a baby diaper on Amazon, okay, I look at that customer as, now a diaper could be something, somebody might find it funny that, how do you assess somebody who's buying that? Now, diaper is such a thing, a kid's diaper. It's not a luxury item. It's not something very cheap also, and something too luxurious also. Yet somebody is spending on it. Somebody is spending on, their children. That means the customer is married. He has family. There is a stability factor. So there are so many aspects that can come out. This is a very small, funny example, but we have used this, in my past. And I like quoting it, because there can be so much depth in, how a customer spends. So this is how you get a 360-degree view. We are working, with too many data points, too many things, we do these, we want to give this experience of that speed and scale to the customer. And, this is how we are learning from our peers, from our, whatever we have done in the past, and how how we are shaping up. That's
Wonderful,
my take
wonderful,
on.
wonderful. So next we come to a very interesting speaker, and she's Chinu Tyagi from Kotak Mahindra Bank. Happens to be my first bank and my, the foundation bank in the financial services. So it's an ex-organization, and she's from IT governance. So as we all understand today, AI needs a very, very strong governance. You know, AI is, as we used to say that electricity, जैसे हम पहले बोलते थे कि electricity is a good servant but a very bad master. So similarly, AI probably, you know, there are certain, it has to be taken with a pinch of salt. AI can be a good servant but a very bad master also. And the rules of the machine, which the machine understands, you know, it may not be true or may not be correct in the right human understanding all the time. So it needs a human control and governance. And so today Chinu would be speaking to us regarding the role of IT governance in risk management, emerging use of AI in managing the risk, and the evolving landscape of AI credit assessment, etc. So please, over to you.
So first of all, thanks to the Signix groups and all the partners who has given us this opportunity to speak. So moving on to the role of AI and specifically, you know, what IT can play a role to mitigate the risk, to assess the risk, how it can play a role, right? So we all spoke about the digital transformations happening, you know, in the banks, the journey, the rise of big data, AI, ML, right? And yes, definitely with all these technologies being in place, we have now the capability to comb through a large volume of data and make, you know, more proactive decisions, measures, right? And then take faster decisions probably, right? Despite the fact there are certain challenges also being, you know, when it comes to implementing all these technologies where we are taking help from, most of the banks are basically taking help from the partners, right? So few of the challenges we are well aware of, like, you know, legacy applications, right? We have so many legacy applications in all the banks almost, right? And it's not that easy to integrate all those applications with all this new technology. And what our partners are also referring, you know, basically offering us, like we have all these AI agents and all these technologies being developed. But yes, definitely the due diligence, how it can be integrated, fitted into our existing infrastructure is one of the challenge when it comes to the use of these new technologies, right? And important thing everyone here is talking about definitely the data, right? So all these technologies works on data. So the availability of the data, the accuracy of the data is definitely one of the concern for all the IT people. I mean, I'm not advocating IT people, I'm just highlighting few of the challenges. They are also struggling to implement all these technologies. And despite the fact, you know, people in the credit side always have a view that there are so many tools, applications available in the market, why it's taking too much of time to implement and all those things. So there are certain underlying challenges definitely, right? The data is one of them. Then as you mentioned, sir, that bill definitely it comes with a cost, right? It comes with a cost and, you know, then the skill set we already talked about, right? Every organization is running towards using these technologies. Definitely there is a skill set issue. And the skill set issue at both the sides, I would say, like at the IT side also, IT being in foundation or the, you know, for anything, right? Yes, IT side also there are skill set issues. Even certain things which has been already enabled, the right workforce, right, which can leverage this data analytics is also probably not available as such in the market, right? And with the use of all these new technologies, with the evolution of these new technologies, regulators are also coming up with, you know, new regulations, right? One of them probably we'll be talking today also, DPTP and other regulations also coming into place, cybersecurity related, other circulars coming into place. Yes, they are also taking time. Okay, definitely. I mean, though we are moving into a new world with all these challenges, addressing all these challenges, right? But the baseline is, you know, the data. We all have spoken about data. Uh, yes, big data, AI, ML, all these flashy words, right? But if you peel through all these flashy words, you know, the real buzz lies somewhere else. When we say somewhere else, through all this data analysis, what we are trying to basically ascertain is the trust, right? And trust, something which is not given, uh, which is something, proven. I mean, through the behavioral analysis and all, we have proved it, right? Verified it, and basically auditable trust, kind of, I would say. So this is the kind of, world we are moving into. And it's not just the, it's basically our identity as an individual is collapsing. So where KYC soon will become KYC DB, most probably like know your customer's digital behavior, right? Where banks will not ask you, who are you? They'll start asking you, what is your digital behavior, right? So we are moving into that kind of world. And with all these technical innovations being getting into place, right, certain things which needs the retrofitment and probably we don't talk much about is, first of all, I would say is our CBS, right? We all are using, there are, counted number of CBS softwares available in the market, and one or the other bank is using the same. But is our CBS has that retrofitting, to process the decentralized ID, right? Because IDs nowadays is not like you will be proving through the, what is, so I'll take a step back. So what is, how we are getting the trust of the customers right now, where we are dependent upon, right? If you see the trust, how we are measuring, we are doing the Aadhaar verifications, right? We have the PAN verification systems in place. We believe on the KYC norms being laid out by the RBI, correct? We believe on the OTP systems, right? But if you really see all these trust, parameters are basically collapsing nowadays. It's, as you talked about, like we are analyzing the behavior, what you are doing in the digital world, social पे क्या कर रहे हो आप, और कौन सी sites visit कर रहे हो. So basically, it's like, now the identity would be like, anchored probably by the blockchain, right? Not by the any bank server, not by any bank server. It would be anchored by the blockchain, right? So in this moving world, it's not like, at bank level, we have to explore all these technical options, technology options. Even at the other side, I mean the regulator's side, as we talked about, CBS is one, but is the NCIPC framework has been, basically compatible to process all these decentralized ID things? Is the UIDI has been, infrastructure has been upgraded or not? So these are few of the things, basically these will also change over the time. In fact, the regulators also need to come up with some kind of regulations on, the AI governance, because AI is ultimately doing, easing basically our job, but again the circulars is supposed to come from the RBI side on the AI governance also. So basically it's not an evolution, I would say, it's an architectural reset, I would say rather. So moving into a world like, where basically we would be playing with the identity of the people most of the time taking any decisions. Yes, definitely IT plays a key role in this, but the right usage of, all these technologies and all will surely take time. And I was reading one of the article, and probably, by 2028, we would see a, complete shift in the technology of like how the risk is being assessed, how it should be mitigated. And that's it. I hope I am
Wonderful.
able to
Yeah, yeah.
address.
Very nice.
Still, if you feel any questions, you
You've
can
given
ask.
various examples, so very nice, Chinu. And we'll come back to you. And there's an important topic which is left for you, which is the DPDP Act. So coming back to Dr. Sanjay Godke, he's the CEO of Janta Sehkari Bank. So, we would like to understand from you, what are the opportunities and challenges in using the AI for credit risk assessment? Basically, more so regarding the challenges which probably you may see.
Okay, thank you. Very good afternoon to one and all. Opportunities, we can say, whatever the characteristics with the human being that are overcome by the AI and ML or artificial intelligence, the capacity of working, accuracy, efficiency, all these are characteristics or features are available. Even dealing with the large data set within a small amount of time, that is very difficult or difficult to the bankers. Whatever the tagline that smart lending, definitely, as per my opinion, all bankers, all employees are smart. But with the help of AI, ML, that task, whatever the credit appraisal, credit rating, that can be performed in a better or smarter way. So challenges, opportunity, I will talk about the opportunity first. So credit rating or the credit appraisal, even whatever the regulators, that regulators gives importance to the credit appraisal. If credit appraisal is better or good, then bank is performing well. So credit rating, audit rating is based on that only. So important, as per the different departments are there in the banks. So credit department is very important department because regulator want to know whether the hard-earned money is safe or not. So based on that, the credit rating is important. And the thing is what, when AI is working, so it has to deal a large data or huge amount of documents. So if we introduce AI, then whatever the legal documents, loan processing documents, that can be analyzed accurately and whatever the time required for that, that is very small time. And today's people or today's generation want to get loan as early as possible. So that thing is going to be maintained with the help of AI. Chatbot we can have for doing this. Thousands of papers can be read and that can be summarized with the help of AI. So whatever the loan documents, whatever the takeaways from that documents, that key points are summarized. And based on that, management people or the board can take decision whether that things. Even we know there is a huge data in the social media. So that is going to be analyzed, behavior or the characteristics of the people or the person who want to take loan. So based on that also AI will help. It is very hard to learn through the humankind, or for the humankind it is difficult to understand the characteristics of the person. And AI will help in this manner, in better way. Because it refers all the social media, it has to go all the, whatever the channels are there, efficient manner. Again, I can add this efficiency is there, this one. And in case of challenges, as other panel members has mentioned, that it is skill set required, manpower skill set required is different, or AIML oriented people are required in this. And again, finance or the capital investment, that is the thing. Again, we can say opportunity, or even I will say first opportunity, that if data is correct or data is clean, noise free, then decisions are correct. But people used to blame that AI is not doing well like that. At that time, the data, whatever the data is not, that is having noise, that is not complete data or noise with noise data. But if data is clean, then take decision. So this challenge is that the data should be clean. So every time, whenever any bank is transferring from one CBS to another CBS, so there may be a chances of many places that data is not available, ambiguity of data at that time. So in that case, if we integrate AI/ML system to that system, then definitely there is more chance to take wrong results. And people will blame that AI is giving wrong result. But it is in contrast, if data is clean, if data is correct, and this handling facility or handling characteristics of the machine is more than that of the people or the mankind.
Wonderful.
Thank you,
Thank you very much, Sanjay ji. And I think again, just to reiterate, that, you know, the quality of the data again is very, very paramount. You know, sometimes if the data itself is fudged, अगर balance sheet ही forged है या fudged है, so in that case, even the AI will throw out wrong implementation. So there it is, you know, the human which comes into the play. So, you know, and coming to Rajni Bahate, she is from Federal Bank of India. I would like to understand from you again the opportunities and challenges for in terms of AI doing the credit risk assessment, and also how you know AI builds they help to recognize the EWS, early warning signals.
So Dr. Sanjay has actually covered it very well on the opportunities and challenges. I have two questions to address, opportunity and challenges and EWS. So I'll first take the opportunity and challenges. So the word artificial intelligence itself is very powerful word which is describing, like, it's self-explanatory. You know, like it's defined the strength as well as it's defined the weaknesses. Let me give an example. Say you have a PAN number of an entity. From the PAN number, you can have a you can get a lot of structured data itself from various public domain sources. Like from MCA site, you can get the balance sheet, you can get the ratio analysis, you can get the list of directors, you can get the various charges which the entity is already, you know, having loan availment from various banks. Lot many things from MCA site itself. Then there is credit rating. From external credit rating agencies, you can get the probability of default, the rationale for which the credit rating has been provided. Then from CIBIL and CRILC, these are the sources from where you can get the default history of the client. Then from bank statement analysis, which you can get from account aggregator. So from there, you can again understand the conduct of the account. So there are various ways to get the data and then take a decision on it. So your decision will be precise, quick, your productivity will improve, efficiency will improve, and to an extent it will be very objective. So when structured data is available, this is an opportunity. You know, you give a solution to the customer, your RM is not going, or a business team is not going only to collect data, because data is available if you have an AI model. So this is an opportunity in structured cases. What about unstructured? When there is no file or there is a thin file, you don't have data. So in that case, AI help in financial inclusion. You know, you can study the behavioral pattern in terms of what posting the guy is doing in social media, when he's paying his rental dues, when he's paying his electricity bill or credit card, from various, you know, the way he behaves in the society. AI also gives those kind of unstructured data where you can again do an assessment and decide on the lending. So both sides, AI is useful. It gives us an opportunity. Then where is the challenge? The challenge is, of course, how he has covered. We may not get the structured data. We may get a managed data or a wrong data. Then it is very difficult, you know, to give a right judgment. Again, in case of financial inclusion, where we take unstructured data, like you go and see the social behavior, that also may lead us to data privacy risk. So there is a lot of regulatory challenges. There is a lot of compliance risk, ethical risk, which needs to be covered. So as per me, you know, how there are opportunities, but with responsible lending or responsible adoption of the technology, we could able to, you know, manage the challenge. It's still in an evolving stage. Let's see how it will evolve, and it's very dynamic. So it is useful. With responsible adoption, it will become more useful. And with regard to EWS, like I would want to, you know, it's quite interesting. Like Ms. Somani has covered it really well with regard to 360-degree views. We can have all the data, we can take the decision fast. Once the decision is taken, now what? We have to do real-time monitoring of that account also. The work is not finished. So there is early warning signal. So is early warning signal sufficient? I think with AI, we should look for earliest warning signal instead of early warning signal. think of a situation, like I'll take an example from real life situation. Say there's a person, there's a boy, he is coming to office by riding a bike, traveling one way 20 kilometers, and now suppose he's having a backache. And he is thinking this backache is because I'm traveling so long distance through bike. This backache is slowly increasing day by day, year by year, and his responsibility in family life is also increasing. He has a wife, he has children, their education, he has a home loan. So he's also very busy with his day-to-day work. So there are early signals coming in his day-to-day life. He has a pain, he's going to doctor, and he's not giving the pattern, he's not informing the doctor that this pain is from very long time. He's just taking some painkillers, some prescribed medicines, and it's going on. One fine day, he got diagnosed with a spine cancer. And mind you, this is a real, like one of my colleagues has faced this. So he got a spine cancer. Now imagine he's not able to walk, and it's a last stage. He has a history in his family. Like his parents had cancer. They died because of the cancer. Still he ignored. So the pattern cannot be ignored. For early warning, AI gives us the pattern, the behavioral consolidation. One standalone data cannot help. But with a lot of consolidated data, we may not overlook, we may not, dismiss the data. Only one behavior can help us, like we may ignore. But if there is a pattern, we will not ignore. Then we know where we are heading to. I can quote another example. It's very weirdo, but still, people would relate. Like I see every age group people over here. Say for example, there is a family. There's a husband. He's very very approachable, very happy family. He's coming from office on time. He's taking care of his children. He's spending time with the family. He's taking his family for outing on weekends. Everything is going good. One fine day, he started coming late, and reason is a lot of work pressure, lot of work. Fair enough. Now he started leaving early. The reason is again the same thing, lot of work. He's not giving time to the family. He's not doing the day-to-day earlier which he used to do. Now he's kind of very happy. He's in a very happy mood, in a very suspicious kind of happiness. And one fine day, boom, he is kind of dating somebody else. And the wife got to know only after, there were triggers. There were triggers like his daily routine was changing. His distancing with the wife was changing. A lot of things, but wife ignored. So there are early warning signs. But when we get that pattern, the consolidation, maybe it will be easier to manage. Yeah, it's kind of, of course it's not connected with lending, but then it's similar kind. Banks also look for those early warning signs. Like suppose if the rating downgrade has happened, it's a sign. If there are too many bank checkbooks, check returns are happening, it's a sign. If there's too many CIBIL inquiry, it's a sign. If a company is kind of making losses, it's a sign. If there's collection is not happening, debtors are increasing, or a sales is not happening, again it's a sign. So there are kind of signs which are available. We need not wait. But if there is a delayed signal, delayed recognition or action, it's a disaster which is going to happen. So the point is, AI helps us real-time monitoring. So like this is what I wanted to cover.
Amazing.
And then I want to conclude with one of the saying, I just able to recall that, like once Warren Buffett has said, it doesn't matter, predicting rain doesn't matter, building an ark matters. So with this technology, we should try to build an ark. Thank you.
Perfect. So basically,
I would like to add in this opportunities while introducing AI. In that, that voice integration can be possible. Voice integration, maybe the person who are illiterate and the person who are blind, they can perform their banking activity while the voice integration in a proper manner, accurate manner. And as madam said, sometimes these things are happened while sanctioning the loan. Fake persons are coming, getting loan, and after that, when the loan is going to be default, then we are approaching that person, but the name is different. That things happen in most of the banks. So facial recognition, AI is the tool through the facial recognition that can identify the authentication or the legality of that person. That can be done.
Yeah,
And
typically these days, even if you go for your, identification, then you have to blink.
Yeah.
Typically in a
Yeah.
UIDAI face recognition app also,
Retina.
unless you blink, the app will not recognize you as a live person. So आपको जिंदा रहने के लिए भी blink करना जरूरी है. So बहुत चीजें हैं, and I think the technology is evolving. And so the regulator is also looking up in AI, for example, in AML tools, etc. Regulator has come up with a hunter tool, AI ML hunter tool. So those kind of things are evolving, and risk assessment, risk mitigation, collections, EWS, all these things are actually and data deep science. And plus for the banks, typically the problem is that most of the data has to be, and the analytics for the same has to be on-prem, maybe cloud, engaging cloud technology and the cloud services is a bit of a difficult task. And also the fact that, for accessing the various data of the customers, one big factor is the DPDP Act, so about which I had mentioned that we'll speak to
Privacy.
Chinu again.
Privacy of the data.
The privacy of the data, the privacy of the customer, to what extent, you can access the customer data. That is also one aspect which needs to be looked at by the lenders or the banks and NBFCs. So, Chinu, if you'd like.
one more thing
Yeah,
I would like to add. As a challenge for AI, introducing AI/ML, that India is very diverse country. More than 700 languages are spoken in India.
Yes.
So, like AI, this is the initial stage, introduction of AI or ML in the banking. Even these big banks or corporate bank, they are in an initial stage. But in future, we have to do banking business in a local language.
Correct.
So that can be a opportunity as well as challenges.
Yes.
More is the challenge because
Of course.
more than 700 languages are spoken.
Very true, very true,
Yes,
very
thank
true.
you.
So, a few lines on the DPDP, and then we'll move to some questions from the audience. And maybe, sir, you would like to add, because you spoke the least, before Chinu takes on. Or maybe Chinu, you can start.
All right, thank you. So when we say like privacy of the data, there were earlier also regulations in place, right? Privacy Act was there. And now RBI has, basically Indian Ministry has come up with the dedicated, act of DPDP, right? Since we are talking in terms of credit risk management, so if I talk about DPDP in terms of the credit risk management, so as per my understanding, they are different but potentially interconnected. So what DPDP talks about is, the collection, processing, and the storage of the data, right? Basically, it laid down the practices of the data handling. And if we talk about the credit risk management frameworks, it talks about, identifying, assessing, and mitigating the risk, right? So what are the key provisions of the DPDP is, first is in terms of the data, is the data minimization, right? So organizations are supposed to collect and process only the minimum data that is required for the stated purpose, right? So bottom line. Second is the consent of the customer. Every data that you are collecting for that stated purpose should be as per the customer consent, right? So building a, consent management framework, considering all our existing applications, old applications I would rather focus upon, right? That is something. And third, in terms of the data, if we talk about, is the third angle is the third party risk management, right? Since most of the banks are still dependent on the partners, right? So DPDP clearly lays out that, if you are using partners to collect your data, to process or store your data. It is your responsibility, right? So what is common between DPDP and the risk management framework? What is the relation is basically the data, right? There are other things also in the DPDP which probably I'll not talk much about, right? So the relation is the data, right? So data as a risk factor is definitely going to impact the risk modeling, right, and the assessment methodologies. So compliance with respect to DPDP can be seen as a risk mitigation strategy for the data handling, for the legal penalties, and the reputational, damage associated with the data breaches, right? Because DPDP also talks about, the incident response plan. Like when any data breach happens, it should be communicated to the customer, and there should be an incident response plan, right, that you should follow. So that is another thing with respect to DPDP. Yeah, seemingly separate, they are still interconnected with respect to data. And yes, these data handling practices laid down by the DPDP are going to impact, the overall policy framework of the, risk assessment and, the modeling of the risk.
And I think the penalties on the organizations, entities is pretty huge. It is very, very, unrelenting and very huge penalties which have been framed or which have been designated over there. So coming to Sanjeev ji, few last words and then we'll
Yes.
take on some questions.
Yes, talking about risk management and use of AI ML, it's not ending job, you can say. Risk management has gained importance nowadays to a great extent. Reason being very simply that driving a car and issuing a license to a car driver is a difficult task, but issuing a pilot license is much, much, much more difficult task. Same is the case. Banking has always been very regulated entity in our country, and we can say very proudly that our regulator is the world's best regulator in India.
I think we should clap for that.
Regulator. But
Through all the Lehman crisis and everything,
correct.
we have come through very, very
Excellent. More particularly post this pandemic, the way regulator has handled the situation of our country, we are sort of what to say appreciation. So the more we use technology, the more we use this AI. Nowadays, 2-3 things you have observed. We always talk about governance. See, whenever you talk about the banks rating, banks aspect of regulator, they want to see your profitability, your business growing, bottom line, top line. They simply see your governance level. If you have strong governance, you are the best one. If you don't have governance, RBI is sitting there. Data we are not simply using for lending, but as she was also talking, that we do more and more analysis while lending. What about post-lending? So it's not a one-time activity. Keep on the same exercise. Manually, it's not practically possible. So this use of data helps us in doing so. Use of technology helps us in doing so. And early warning signal, it generates on real-time basis. The consumer behavior, it's not behavior, there is change in behavior. After availing the facility, how the behavior is changing, how your lifestyle is changing, that matters. And that is a trigger point for a banker. You have to evolve your strategy, how to go ahead with that. Now coming to risk management parlance we talk about. Let's see, now we are, Rajiv ji also talking about this ECL model. Now gone are the days we provisioning were made on lost data. Now we have to go for forward-looking data. So we see the probability of default. Then the most important part, loss given default. See, now I hope all banks are, at least they are working on ECL model. We are awaiting the nod from a regulator, but we are working on ECL model. And I am part of that team which is looking for that. And if you go the criticality of those components which are required for working out this, more particularly LGD, that availability of data is a big, big challenge because that amount of depth we require in that. So in days to come also, nowadays even auditors, if you talk audit perspective, earlier days auditors used to come, then we used to provide them data. Now they come with data. They just simply want dump. You provide them dump, you sit relax, they are working for that. So before they will step into, They have data analytics tool. They have people working day and night on that data. Exactly pinpointed observations they have, and they will come to you.
There are, I think, 260 reports that we are sending every month to the regulator, each and every bank, and there are automated reports which we have to provide. So it's a very, very stringent and a very strict monitoring. And the moment in case the data is getting delayed, it's not that somebody is just getting the reports and not looking at it. So the regulator is very vigilant also. So that's again.
There was a story 10 years back. One of our ED told a story that there was a meeting of banks chiefs, and RBI governor was having in the meeting. So RBI governor asked, "What is banking?" So no one explained what is banking. Then he explained simple definition of banking. Why no one could answer? Because governor is not asking the definition of banking. So in the case today, if you go to any auditor, if they put forward a very simple question, we are speechless, because they are not asking some information. They have information. You need to explain them. So data is not only to provide loan. Data is not only to profiling the risk of the customers. Now data is everything. So this governance, data governance, IT governance, they are gaining momentum. And in days to come in future, we will say everything is based on data. It's not, earlier people used to go to avail credit loan, this consumer loan. Now you have pre-approved personal loan. Every day you receive a message, you have pre-approved personal loan of this much. You simply go and avail, because you are not supposed to provide data. They have data. They have analyzed your data. They have analyzed everything, and they have offered you. You go and avail it. So it's very, very evolving topic. And again, thank you that you have given this platform to discuss a very, very crucial topic. And all industry stalwarts are coming together to discuss all the things. So thank you.
So thank you very much, esteemed panelists. So now we would like to invite a few questions.
Thank you so much, panel members. And ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for this wonderful panel here on smart lending, the power of digital transformation in banks, and commendable job done by these esteemed senior panel members here, and wonderfully moderated by Mr. Bansal. We have strict timelines, but we can take 2 quick questions from the floor. I think we have one question. Can we have the mic, please? Sir, please do introduce yourself and be specific to which panel member the question is.
Good afternoon to all of you. Myself, Dr. Surendra Radu from Jizau Commercial Cooperative Bank, Amravati. My question is to Arti Madam. Arti Madam said that how we can rely on algorithm. I think that if the algorithms are perfect, then if there is no extra human interference, then there is no problem of the algorithm reliability, because we are controlling the Chandrayaan and all these things from Earth. So there is no problem of software or hardware. Remotely we can control everything. And second means I am little bit confused about that. You are quoted one example that if customer is married and whether he is in a position to purchase diaper for his kid or not, from that you can conclude that whether we can lend money to him or not, or how he can pay or repay, because every cooperative bank is facing the problem of recovery of the money. Okay. And also you quoted that by reading the face of customer, we can also decide whether to lend the money or not. And by observing the face of that customer, if such thing is possible, so from our country, Big Shot left the country. So that is my problem. Please conclude.
Thank you, sir. Sir, so on the first part, the alternate data piece, so that when I'm saying the diaper example, that's an alternate data that you get about the customer spends. In the beginning, I mentioned also this, that, for a very long time, we have been selling to customers what we want to sell. As I said, I want to sell personal loans, yet what you want is an embedded finance. When you're exiting Amazon your page after your shopping, you want a EMI-based loan for whatever you have shopped. It could be a refrigerator, it could be a diaper, it could be anything. right? But you want that. So your need is very different than what I'm trying to sell.
My question is that purchasing of diaper is the need, not that is the luxurious item and all this.
Absolutely, that's what I said, sir. It's
So-
not a luxury
Yeah,
item.
So how you can conclude means
I will- that's why I'll add
relate
to
that
that.
diaper with the loan facility or lending of the money.
Correct, sir. So,
For example, there is another example that is I am confused little bit about that
sure, sir.
example.
So I'll say on this diaper example only, sir. So diaper is not a luxury item. It's a need-based item. And not everybody needs. Not every person, not every mother or father is going to buy a diaper for their kids, okay? So, but there is a sizable spend which happens on diaper. I'm also a mother, okay? So there is a sizable spend which happens on diaper. So yet it's not luxury, but it is something, a comfort that I want to give to my child, okay? And so when I'm buying it, I'm thinking about comfort of my family, my child. So there is naturally it is not a necessary spend, but it is a spend which I want to give, for the comfort for my child. So I do understand from this that, okay, Aarti is spending on comfort. This is not just a need-based spend, but a comfort-based spend. Plus, Aarti has a child, okay, and there is a stability. So in general, you will think, as you progress in life, when a person marries, he's, taken the decision of having kids. So there is a certain stability that has come in his life, okay, and hence we take these decisions of having children. It could be other way also, but largely there is a stability in life. So I know that there is a stability in this person's life. So these are all alternate data points that you can think how you assess a customer. So you need not necessarily know. I don't know when this customer is coming to Amazon. One I can do is, of course, a bureau hit, which we anyway do, and we are seeing that what is his intent of paying. Has he been paying well or not? Plus, I also want to see his ability of paying. So all these factors of spends give me an ability of paying. So I'll also like to quote one more example. So when we assess a salaried customer, you see the salary credits of the customer in the bank. But I have to correlate. When I'm assessing this customer on a digital platform, I don't know whether this customer is still employed or he has been sacked. Because I see the last 3 months, 6 months salary, I'm seeing the salary credit. For all you know that this customer has got sacked. He doesn't have the job right now. Now, how I alternately assess this, I see if there is a dip in the spends that he was doing through his UPI transaction, or there is a dip in his lifestyle. So these other factors, which are an early warning signal, this alternate data plays a large role in my decision making. So that pointer that you mentioned is the alternate data that we use. I'm not solely relying on, only the buying thing, but these are more and more data points that we are collecting.
Thank you, Aarti. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for asking the question. I think in
Just
the
a minute.
interest of the time, we can take one quick question. I'm sure you might have a lot of questions, but when a panel is very fantastic, there are questions. Panel members are available post the session for those questions. So can we take one more question from the floor, please?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes,
My
sir.
question is,
I will answer another second part, that facial recognition. See, we have our chairman, respected Vasantrao Nagde. He is 82 years old. While seeing customer, he recognizes whether that person is good for lending or not, like that. So with the help of experience, he has learned or he is able to tell. Machine is same thing. Machine is doing or machine giving result or recognizing the person with the help of data, facial data set, maybe thousands, 10,000, 1 lakh of data set. This kind of pattern, if this kind of pattern is or behavior of facial, then that person, maximum possibility of that person is that person will be in NP or that will be maybe the faulty person, like that.
Sir,
So
what is my...
that can be proved.
Just minute. What is my experience? This is the chairman from 25 years of Jizao Bank. He can also identify or search the person's face. But even though we are facing the same problems, at the time of lending money, that he looks very nice or he behave also very nicely. After that, at the time of recovery,
Sir, I tell you,
we
in
are
my
facing lot of
experience,
problems.
I just tell you in my experience, जो मेरे पास lending के लिए जो सबसे cleanest file आती थी, वो ही defaulter होता था. और उसी पे ही मुझे सबसे बड़ा शक होता था, उसकी उसकी फाइल में एक भी चीज इधर उधर नहीं होती थी। मुझे लगता था यार ये तो पक्का डिफॉल्टर होने वाला है, एंड द क्रेडिट पीपल यू नो दे आर ट्रेन्ड टू असेस लाइक दैट। तो जो शक्ल वाला एग्जाम्पल दिया उन्होंने, दैट एग्जाम्पल ऑफ फेस रिकग्निशन, इट इज लाइक दैट ओनली। अगर आपको लगता है, मशीन बोलती है कि अच्छा, मशीन बोलती है कि यार ये 70% चांस है इस बंदे का डिफॉल्ट करेगा, तो नाउ इट इज द जॉब ऑफ द ह्यूमन और द पर्सन हु इज हैंडलिंग टू बी डबली श्योर। उसके ऊपर और डबल चेक करेगा, ही विल डू अ प्रॉब्ली अ रेफरेंस चेक, or he'll probably do a third party check or assessment, or maybe see the documents more deeply. तो ये सब चीज होता है सर। तो मैं जैसे एग्जांपल आपको देता हूँ सर, मेरे पास एक फाइल आई, एक बंदा ही सेड कि भाई मैं ना एक आई एम द सीनियर मेडिकल रिप्रेजेंटेटिव इन अ फला फला फार्मा कंपनी। तो मैं बाई चांस ऑफिस से घर जा रहा था, रास्ते में एक दवा की दुकान पे रुका, कुछ मेडिसिन लेना था। मैंने पूछा ये इतनी बड़ी कंपनी सिप्ला विप्ला, और ये तो मेडिकल शॉप्स हैं, दे नो, जो बड़े बड़े जो इनके एमआरस हैं उनको तो जानते ही होंगे ये। तो वो उससे पूछा, बोला ऐसा तो कोई आदमी नहीं है इस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में। मैंने पूछा आप सब जानते हो ज़्यादातर लोग? कह रहे हैं हाँ मैं सबको जानता हूँ, मैं तो बस रोज ही आते हैं रहते बैठे रहते हैं। तो देन आई हैड सम काइंड ऑफ दिस थिंग। तो ये ऐसा ही होता है, फाइल बड़ी क्लीन है, हमने फिजिकल वेरिफिकेशन किया, बड़ा अच्छा घर है उसका, गाड़ी भी रखी हुई है, बीवी बच्चे भी दिख रहे हैं, लेकिन he was suspicious case।
Thank you so much,
ये चीज होता है सर।
Thank you so much, sir.
My question is, we are talking about smart lending. It's okay. So I have one case with me. The person was the DYSP in Mumbai. He came to me at Amravati. I have given him loan of 1.5 CR. His CIBIL was all right. His previous record was all right. And one guarantor, he asked me money. He asked me which property to be mortgaged. I have asked him to twice, I need twice mortgage, whatever loan I have funded to you. So it was 1.5 CR, 1.2 CR, 1.4 CR, and my property mortgage was 2.8 crore. So he was not having property, guarantor has mortgage property. Guarantor's detail was quite good. At the moment 3 installments were not remitted by him, I asked him to remit, and immediately I issued notice in SARFAESI Act. The moment notice seen by SBI, Khamgaon, they sent me one letter, this property belongs to us. And SBI has just done equitable mortgage. We had mortgage, registered mortgage. So the moment equitable mortgage has not charged in the property, in our previous session that was that whether property's mortgage is there as per record of rights or not. That was the question earlier in AI. So later SBI told us we have mortgaged this equitable, and that was not, charge was not created. So we told the SBI, as you have not created charge, it is with us. So you are not liable to sell it. We are here. So these questions comes, though we lend smartly. This is the question.
Thank you,
Very
sir.
true, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I can answer this.
Sir, quick answer because we are over time. So request you to make it a point answer.
So there is a very common terminology which is being used into ITs nowadays, embedded trust architecture, right? We have many other partners who are from the IT people can help us to understand also that along with me. Okay, so embedded trust architecture in the sense is whatever technology, whatever solutions you are developing, right, based on the trust. And that trust is not coming right only from what is your salary. Are you taking any loans? Are you returning? Are you paying the EMIs on the time? No. That trust architecture, that's why I bring a light on that while I was talking about IT thing, that trust is not coming just from these factors. Digital behavior, and digital behavior is not limited to just banking websites. No. It's in the entire digital space, whatever you're doing, whether, as she rightly mentioned, you buying diapers, you buying tea sachets, whatever, big or small things you are doing. How you was doing earlier, you was doing, like for example, last few months you have been spending 50,000 overall on the internet. Right now you are spending 20,000 on the internet, okay? Internet, when I'm saying, I'm not saying any one specific website, okay? So this is a pattern, right? So when we say AI, AI is not just a, it's not just a flashy words of using AI. AI, digital behavior in the sense, overall in the digital space, what you are doing, building the solutions on those parameters is something which is a next level, solution. That's why I use the word 2028. We have just started, okay, and it's a complete architectural reset for the industry.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And
can
ladies and gentlemen,
explain
big
you
round of
later.
applause for this wonderful panel here. Honorable panel members, would request you to kindly be on stage. I would like to call on stage Mr. Jay Hashmukh Shah, Senior Vice President, Banking Alliances and Partnerships from NeoCred. Jayji, if you could kindly come on stage to do the honors of felicitating this wonderful panel of experts here. We will start with Mr. Sanjeev Kumar from Union Bank of India. A big round of applause to Sanjeev Kumar from Union Bank of India. Sanjeev ji, thank you so much for your contributions in this panel session. Moving next to Mr. Rajiv Kesri from State Bank of India. A big round of applause to Mr. Rajiv Kesri for his wonderful contribution in the panel session. Moving next to Ms. Aarti Somani from Unity Small Finance Bank. A big round of applause to Ms. Somani for her wonderful contribution in the panel session. Moving next to Ms. Chinu Tyagi from Kotak Mahindra Bank. A big round of applause to Ms. Tyagi for her wonderful contribution in the panel. Moving next to Dr. Sanjay Godke from Janata Sahakari Bank. A big round of applause to Dr. Sanjay for his wonderful contributions in the panel session. Moving next to Ms. Rajani Baheti from Federal Bank. A big round of applause to Ms. Baheti for her wonderful contributions in the panel session. And now, ladies and gentlemen, our honorable moderator for the panel, Mr. Gursharan Rai Bansal from India Post Payments Bank. A big round of applause to Mr. Bansal, not just for his thoughts on the panel, but wonderfully moderating this panel as well. Respected panel members would request you to kindly step forward for a group photo. And Jay, if you could also join them.